Hi. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different because I like to change it up a little bit. And I'm going to tell you about one of my favorite books. And this might be a book that you have already read. So if you have, then there's no reason to continue listening, obviously. But I know for me, when I have favorite books, I like to reread them often. So sometimes it's good to um, just have somebody remind you of the amazing lessons. So I would say that this is one of the top five books that I've ever read, and I think it might be my very favorite. But this book is The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. And he wrote a book called The Untethered Soul. And these books came out, oh, let's see when they came out. Copyright 2015. So, gosh, this book is almost 10 years old, and I think The Untethered Soul came out a few years before that. But why do I like this book and why do I bring it up related to Powered by Emotion and what I'm teaching and what I'm doing with my coaching and RTT? The reason why I love this book is because we have been taught that we need to use action and we need to decide in our lives where we're going, what we're doing, and how to get there. And we need to just use our willpower and our with resolve and our determination to create the lives that we want. And some people are really good at that, and other people are not so good at that. And a lot of people feel like they're spinning their wheels their whole life because they just haven't been able to be that go getter, that powerful person that can create things and make things happen. Well, this book is about how we can leverage something that is so much more powerful than us in action. Now, this doesn't mean we don't act, because I know there are a lot of people out there who say, if you visualize things and you just sit around in your house and, this is an idea of law of attraction, that things will just manifest into your life and you don't have to do anything. And I think many people have tried that, including myself, and haven't had a whole lot of luck with that. But I think there is a lot to say for beginning to let go of this idea that we know how to get where we want to go and that we are the ones that have to drive it. And I know a lot of people will disagree with me. There are a lot of type A personalities who are really good at creating lives that they want. Unfortunately, that was never me. So I was more of a easygoing, not as disciplined person. I mean, I've always had a good work ethic. I've been able to finish college. I've got, finished graduate school. I've always been a really hard worker and good at my job, but I've always just achieved a life that's been middle of the road, you know, uh, middle class. I mean, I have a great life. I'm very grateful for my life, but I feel like there's so much more that we just don't tap into. And the more work I do on realizing the potential of a human being, the more I wonder why we don't achieve more in our lives, why we don't live bigger, more exciting, more fun, more creative, more joyful lives. And I've really committed myself to this, to figuring out what is it that keeps us stuck? What is it that takes our freedom from us? What is it that causes people to be in so much pain? I mean, it seems like more and more people are in pain, people are depressed, people are anxious, people are on all kinds of medications, um, and everywhere we look at as a country, the United States is one of the sickest countries in the world, although, we're supposed to have world-class medical system. Everyone's run down, worn out, overwhelmed, overworked. And it just feels like it just gets louder and harder and more and more of a struggle. And is it fun? Are we really enjoying ourselves? I mean, I know there are some people who are, but if anybody doesn't feel worn out, overstressed, tired, needing time, would love to have time, just all of those things that we I think strive for. We think, okay, I'll feel that way when I'm retired, and we're all working towards retirement. And that's not everybody. And I know there are a lot of people who feel a lot of excitement and fun in their everyday life, but for a lot of people, it's a drudgery. And so the reason why I love this book is because Michael Singer, he decided that he wanted to try his life in a different way. He started to notice that there was a voice going on in his head that never shut up. And the first couple of chapters of The Untethered Soul are really funny because he really talks about this. He talks about like this, our mind as being like this roommate in our head that just narrates everything. It just won't shut up. And can you imagine being around a person that talked nonstop, that had an opinion about everything, that you couldn't even look out the window without them telling you what to think and what to do and how to be and what you were doing wrong and what you were doing right and what the other person was doing wrong and what the other person that you were happened to be interacting with was doing right and what you needed to do and what you forgot. And I know that if anybody here has tried to meditate and had a really hard time with it, you know who I'm talking about. This roommate, right? Our minds, they don't shut up, right? And so Michael Singer, in the surrender experiment, started to notice that his mind was constantly talking, narrating everything, never quiet. But he asked this question, if I'm noticing this, what is the energy that is noticing this mind? And so there's like this consciousness behind it that is noticing that my mind won't be quiet. So what is that? And started asking these deeper questions about, who am I? Am I the mind, or am I the person watching the mind? And as he asked these questions, he started to want to get disconnected a little bit from this mind and to take more of an observer stance and see if he could pull away a little bit from the mind and to stop getting, maybe being on this hamster wheel or this rat race. And could he quiet the mind? So he started getting into meditation and learning to quiet the mind. And the book goes through that process. But as he goes, he starts to realize that when he starts to disconnect from this noise, that there is a higher knowing within him that is very, I don't know what word I would use. Um, it is very intelligent and it is almost like all knowing. And that if he could be quiet enough to begin to listen to that voice would guide him in a very different way. And his life could be maybe more than he ever dreamed it was. And actually, he really just wanted a very simple life. He just wanted to be in the woods meditating and he wanted to quiet up this roommate. And that's all he wanted. But what the voice that he started hearing started to tell him was that, no, I want you to listen to me and I want you to surrender to me and trust me. And I'm going to take you on a ride that you aren't going to believe. And so at one point in his life, he decides and he makes this conscious decision that he's going to let go of being in charge and he's going to let this voice guide him through his life. And when he does, his life starts to take turns and twists that you can't even imagine. And he goes from living in the woods in a VW bus to running $100 million company. And the journey through his life is extraordinary. And so it is really a memoir or a story about what happens when you let go and you surrender to life. And it's a beautiful story. And it teaches me so much about who I am, what I'm capable of, and how important it is to quiet the mind. And the way that this ties into powered by emotion and where emotion comes to in here is that when we have this mind that won't be quiet, part of it, part of the reason why we can't let this mind go is those unexpressed emotions. So again, we come right back to the fear and the anger and the sadness and all the different emotions that are in there, the shame and the guilt and the I'm bad, I'm wrong, and all of these things that we feel about ourselves that mind is constantly telling us about ourselves. It isn't real. And in the Untethered Soul, he talks about how these are disruptions in our field that just want to move through us. But we repress them. And so we give them power because they are repressed. And things that are repressed are very powerful. But if we can learn to let them move through us, then we can gain this power and we can hear this inner voice and we can start to surrender to this consciousness that knows way more than we do. That isn't about willpower, that isn't about action, but maybe is about joy and play and fun and finding out who we are and why we're here and what we came to do, and gives our lives so much more meaning than it has right now. So I hope that was helpful and insightful. And I encourage you, if you haven't read or listened to The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer, to go and get it because it is a real treat and a delight. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to talking to you again.